Welcome to Rookie Resource. My name is Ashley Kerr, and I am the co-host of the Real Estate Rookie podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed to the Real Estate Rookie YouTube so you can get updated and notified when new videos are released, especially these rookie resource videos that we are doing. Every time we upload a video, you are also going to be able to download a resource or take away some type of information besides just me talking to you guys. And this week, we're going to be talking about a property closing checklist. So this is part of a 3 checklist series where the first one was the underwriting checklist. Then we just did the due diligence checklist last week. Now we're doing the property closing checklist. So these are all the things you have to do to get your property ready to close it, and then to kind of start the process after you've closed on the property. Why is this even important? Don't you have team members, agents, loan officers that help you through all of this? 100%. And team members are key to closing on a property, but there are still a lot of tasks that you need to do or you need to make sure are done. We're going to walk through that today. If you love these videos for Rookie Resource, make sure to like the button and then comment below and let me know what kind of resources you guys want. And this week's resource is going to be available at biggerpockets.com/resource. We also linked it down below in the description. Okay, for the closing checklist, you're going to want to add, the basic information of the property to stay organized, such as the property address, what entity is purchasing the property, attach maybe a property contract of this, okay? But then we're going to go through as to a little checklist of things that need to be done, okay? So here's the first thing, offer accepted on a property. Make sure that your offer was accepted. Now you're getting to move on to the next step of the process, okay? Inspection scheduled. Did you schedule an inspection? The appraisal, was your information sent to the title company? And in some states, you may have an attorney that does the closings for you. So this would be an additional step that you would need to add, that your information was sent to the attorney. In New York, my agent sends the contract to my attorney. My attorney sends the information to the title company. The title company sends the information back to my attorney. And then my attorney lets my agent know we are clear to close, okay? So that is kind of the process that happens. And oftentimes that process going through so many hands takes longer than if you're actually just closing in a state where you can work directly with title and even if you're using funding compared to cash. So think about who is involved in your state or your county when you are closing on a property. Make sure each of those steps are added onto this checklist as to who needs to be notified. And don't rely on your agent to notify your attorney. Make sure that you are the one that's verifying that that was done or you're giving them the information yourself. Attorney approval. So this is not common in all states, but in some states, you need to have your attorney approve the contract. It's pretty standard in most contracts that say each party, the buyer and the seller, have to have their attorney approve the contract before it's official. I recently lost out on a deal because of this clause. So I went under contract on a Friday. The inspection was right the next day on the Saturday morning. The inspection was fine. And I said, yes, I want to go through with it. And I had to send in my Earnest Money deposit within 3 days, which I was going to put it in right in Monday, the next business day. The attorney approval was 3 business days. The weekend doesn't count. We went under contract on Friday. So that means attorney approval Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday would be the last day. That weekend, after I did the inspection, after I accepted the inspection, they signed this inspection was okay. They got another offer that was a lot higher than my offer. And it was a sight unseen offer. The people hadn't even seen the property because they had stopped showings because we were under contract. And they said, sorry, we're not going to go through with your contract. We're going to take this other offer. They did reimburse us for the inspection, though. They did pay that $375, but they had their attorney just reject our contract, and that was their way out of the contract. So definitely something to be cautious about if you do have a clause like that. Then the earnest money deposit. Did you send it in? Do you take a picture of it? My agent always requires that I take a picture of the earnest money deposit and send it to her, and she sends it to the seller's agent. So did you submit the earnest money deposit? How much is that? Because when you get your closing statement at the end, you want to make sure that the accurate earnest money deposit is stated on your closing statement. So you're getting credit that you already paid $10,000 towards the purchase price. Next, when you find out the scheduled closing date, mark it down. What's your closing date? When do you get the closing statement to review? So check that off. Did I receive the closing statement, or am I on my way to close and I didn't even get that to review? So your closing statement, you can Google sample closing statement for purchasing a property. Usually, the title company or your agent or your loan officer will draw up something that you can look at. And this will state the purchase price, any money you have already paid, money owed to you, and money owed to the seller. So this may even be property taxes, estimating, okay, I paid the school taxes for the whole year, and then they will be prorated based on when you will own it and when the other person owned it. And then you're going to go into what are the closing costs, what do you owe the bank? What do you owe your attorney? What do you owe for postage and mailing? Every little thing is nickeled and dimed on there, okay? That will show you what you'll actually need to bring to the table, if anything. So if you need to cut a check, so we want to document our cash to close. What do we need to bring? And how are we actually paying those funds? You could wire them. You could bring a cashier's check. You could bring a personal check, which I've never really actually seen that allowed, but it could be. So there are different ways, and you want to know which way you need to pay, and that will often be the title company or the attorney who's deciding which way the funds will be received from you, and you want to be prepared. I get nervous all the time when I don't get a closing statement until right before closing that has the cash that I need, and I physically have to go to my small little local bank that I'm in. I have to get a cashier's check for that amount, and I have to physically bring it to closing times. That's just how my bank works and how my attorney works. It's worked fine, but I also it's a process. Okay. So I always like to know, what is the check amount? And it has changed before too, where it's like, oh, we forgot to add this fee in, bring another check. You want to document all of these things that are happening. Then you want to get your insurance policy in place. You don't have insurance on the property. I've definitely run into sellers who are self-insured where they have no insurance on their property, but they don't have any debt on it. And it's such a small price for that property that if something were to happen to it, that for them, it's worth it to just lose the property than to have to pay insurance premiums, I guess. But you want to have insurance on the property. So you want to make sure that when you get your closing date, that you notify your insurance agent or broker of that date so they can make your policy effective. You also most likely have to pay the premium, 1 full year's premium in advance to either start your policy because the insurance company requires it, or to set up your monthly payment plans. So you want to make sure you've paid for it before your closing date, or the bank will put it into escrow for you, or it will come out of your closing statement and they'll actually add it onto your closing statement, and the bank or your attorney will pay the premium directly for you. So make sure you have that in place. So embarrassed to say that one time my agent messaged me and said, Ashley, just want to confirm you got insurance in place, you switched the utilities, and we're ready to close. And I had not gotten insurance on the property. I just forgot. It was just such a common thing and just slipped my mind. I was trying to think of all the other things that I had to do. And this is why checklists are so great, because sometimes you can forget even the easy things. Luckily, I had a great agent and was able to get me a policy that day, effective for the next day. And that leads us into utilities. You need to switch the utilities into your name or your LLC name, whatever is purchasing the property. And even if there's tenants in place of the property, you want to call the utility service to see if they have a landlord program in place. So effectively, what this does is if your tenant moves out of the property, that utility company will automatically switch the billing into your name. You don't have to call every time a tenant moves in and out. That it will automatically revert. And then when a new tenant moves in, they just call and it will go into the new tenant. And then I like to include on my checklist too, like the contact information for the utility companies and the meter number and the account number, because I've called before and the address for the property is not what they have on record, and it's something a little bit different and they cannot pull it up. So during, maybe doing your walkthrough of the property, getting that meter number sometime too is always really helpful. Taking a picture of it, writing down your meter number, and just for future reference too. Okay, so that for all the utility companies. So you want to know who services all the utilities for each one: water, sewer, electric, gas. Is there propane and you need to get the propane tank filled? All those different things. You want to find out how they receive their utilities and what utilities there are. And don't forget garbage too. So is garbage paid through the property taxes? Is it provided? Do you have to get your own garbage service? There's actually a town around here where you take your garbage to the dump. They have no pickup at all. You have to go and take it there. Then any other types of testing you want done on the property too, you're going to want to schedule before closing. And these would be during your due diligence process, but I still include them on here just to make sure and check it off that they were done. So a sewer scope or a septic testing or a well testing too. Now we kind of get into the rehab side of things. If you're going to be rehabbing the property, there's things you can actually do before you close on the property. If it is a property that you're purchasing where the seller doesn't care how many times you access the property, that is a huge advantage. Or even if they let you come in 1 or 2 times after, you've gone through the due diligence period, but being able to build out your scope of work and to have contractors go through the property to give you estimates is so beneficial if you can make that happen. If you can't, that's where those photos and those videos you took when you did your walkthrough are so crucial. Also, the photos from the inspectors. All these little things you got to think about to see what can you do to be proactive so that once you close on the property, it's not rush, because there's going to be other things you have to do after you close on the property too. And then I just added a bunch more stuff about contractors, like getting start dates, confirming insurance, filing their certificates, submitting the rental permits that you want to start rehab on this property. This next section is kind of more tailored towards if you're going to do a rental property instead of a flip house, creating your tenant handbook that's specific for this property. And I'm going to do one of these rookie resources on the tenant handbook one day. And it's this whole handbook that I actually created with Steve Rosenberg that gives the tenants information about their specific unit, such as where is the water shut off, who pays what utilities. Like some of this information is in the lease agreement, but like looking through a lease agreement, I think our lease agreement is up to 13 pages. This is just like a quick guide for the tenants to be able to go and browse through information. And some of the handbooks, depending on what town it is, will include favorite restaurants in this area, which ones actually deliver food to your apartment, things like that. But creating one that's specific to your property. So if they need to replace the furnace air filters, you have that in there. Every 6 months, the furnace air filter needs to be changed. Just little notations of different things that are happening with the property and how to maintain it. And then estoppel agreements, if there's tenants in place already, is creating this document that you can give to the tenants with the seller's permission before you close. And this information is used to verify what the seller told you and what the lease agreements say. If there's no lease agreements, then you definitely need to do an estoppel. So on an estoppel agreement, you're basically asking the tenants to give you information about their lease agreement. So when did they move in? What maintenance needs to be done on the property? That just is a helpful tip for you as to here's some things that may come up when I take over. How much do they pay in rent? What was their security deposit that they paid? How do they pay their rent? What is their contact information so that you can contact them to get a hold of them for different things? If you're using property management software, you can set up their online portfolio for them ahead of time so that when you do take over, they're already set and ready to go. Then there's just a couple admin things you need to do too, like set up your property management software, add those units into it. You need to create a Google Drive folder system. And you can use any kind of folder system if you want. I use Google Drive and I'm doing the property folder. And then in there, I'm doing each separate unit. And then I'm doing the tenants. So like in the unit folders, it's going to be mostly like maintenance and capital expenditures for each unit, different things that are unit specific. Then I'm going to have a tenants folder. And then I'm going to have a bookkeeping folder. Then I'm going to have a leases folder. And I'm going to just keep all these different folders categorized in there for each property. So any loans that have to do with that property, there's going to be a loan folder, bank statements, QuickBooks backup, all those things categorized in there. So kind of the last thing is make sure that when you're getting ready to close is that you're taking another set of pictures. So if you bought the property, maybe it has changed over the course of time since you closed on the property. So take fresh pictures on the day that you do close and have somebody ready to change the locks on the property too. So once you know that closing date, have somebody that's set up to go into your property and to change the locks and put a lock box on it for you. So that way, if you have contractors, vendors that need to enter the property, that it's easily accessible for them to get into the property. The last thing I kind of added on here for you guys for the property closing list is all the information that I want to know about the property and I think that I will need to know in the future that I will probably not remember. So it will be like, this breaks it down so much as to, is there a glass sliding door? Is there a patio? Is there a balcony? How many windows? What's the type of siding? And you can break this down unit by unit, and this will really help you with listings too. For the property management software I use, I upload all this information in there. So if anybody else asks me a question about the property or has a question, they can refer to this without even asking me, and me trying to remember. I probably don't know the answer to the question anyways, because I don't remember. Then they can just take this and just look at everything. This is even helpful if you have a plumber going to the property and he wants to know, okay, I'm going there. I understand that there is an issue with the shower. Do you know, is it a tile shower? Is it a bathtub with a surround? Different things like that. Appliances are a huge one. When we send out our vendor who fixes appliances, they really like to know ahead of time, what is the make and model of the appliance? And we have all of that information so that when we do call them, we can give it right to them, and that makes sure they're prepared for that type of appliance. So take a look at this checklist. You can find it in the description below, or you can go to biggerpockets.com/resource and find the resource there. I hope you guys are really liking these videos because I'm loving giving out these templates and tailoring them for you guys and creating them. If there is a specific template, checklist, or tool that you want, please comment below so I can go ahead and create it for you guys or pull it right from my business and make another video. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned anything from this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time on Rookie Resource.